What kind of beer is that?
Oldest beer in America.
Record that. That could be a commercial.
I am.
Not so.
No, I don't drink. Thank you, though. What's the name of the beer?
Yingling.
It's a Yingling. Black and tan.
How do you say it?
Yingling.
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 Is that the secret to make it into your 90s? A beer every day?
Oh,
Jim Beam.
Jim Beams. Cleans all the germs out of my body. I have two a day. Takes all the dirt that's in your body out.
I'm sure if you contact the company and told them about your grandpa, they would give him. I'm not joking. They would give him free case. So I'm just gonna test your voice. If you could just say testing 1, 2, 3.
Testing, voice 3.
One more time.
Testing, voice 3.
And one more time.
Testing, voice 3.
Perfect.
Feeling pretty good, huh?
That was great. I think we're done. All right, sir. So just go ahead and say hello and your name.
Hello. My name is William Francis Griffiths.
Where and when were you born?
1924, Somerville, Massachusetts.
So how old are you right now?
Right now I am 96.
Do you feel like you're 96?
Yeah, all the way.
Physically, what's it like to be 96?
Well, you're living in a different world. There's so much going on, it's so quick, you can't comprehend a lot of things that are going. But there are great things coming in the future.
And could you just state for the record, what branch of the service were you in during World War II?
I was in the United States Marines.
Hoorah. And what specific units were you a part of?
1st Marine Division.
And a little further detail for that, your tank battalion, please? What tank battalion were you in?
1st Tank Battalion, 1st Marine Division.
Perfect. And what was your specific job in the 1st Tank Battalion?
Well, for the first couple of years, I was a spare man because we replacement for the guys that come off of Guadalcanal. Yeah. Later on, I was a turret gunner on a Sherman tank. I controlled a 75 and a machine gun. When they yelled, "Grip, 3 o'clock," I'd pick it up and I'd throw it around in there, or whatever was needed. Yeah.
And tell me, sir, where all did you see combat in World War II? What islands did you see action on?
I saw action on every island, but not as a gunner. Following the tanks, we had hunted out on Cape Gloucester. We had 100 octane gasoline in the tanks. We had that on our trucks. We were 6 men assigned to a truck with gasoline and oil, and we followed them about 5 yards, 600 yards back to supply them with ammo and that stuff. The only time I was a gunner was on my battle of Okinawa. Yeah.
And so before we go any further, could you just tell me what was the highest rank you achieved before you left the service?
Highest rank? I didn't have any rank. I was a kid out of high school. I was 17 years old. They bombed Pearl Harbor. I wanted to join the best that I always thought about, and it was the United States Marines. Yeah, that was like 4 years of college. For nothing. All they had to do was carry a gun.
And put your life on the line.
Yeah?
So why don't you tell me that story? Take me through. How did you end up in the Marine Corps? How did you actually join?
I joined because one of my high school buddies joined. You know, when I heard he joined, there were 5 of us. We all joined, and we were assigned. We joined up in Boston, and we were sworn in. They said, "Go home, get your parents to sign it, come back." We went back, and we didn't go to South Carolina because they says South Carolina is full, can take no more enlistments. You're going to be going to California, to San Diego. You're going to be honorary Marines. That's what they call them, you know. So we had a wonderful trip across country by train. We went to, magnificent, over the mountains. We stopped at a place called North Platte, Nebraska. And the people there had food waiting for everybody getting off that train. And God bless North Platte, Nebraska. They were wonderful. We got to San Diego in boot camp, and then we started severe training. They shaved your hair. You couldn't talk back. You had to do as you're told. You had to be tame. We pull out in the morning, you shine every day, shave every day. If you pulled out and weren't shaved, you'd have to shave dry in front of everybody. And that was terrible. But all it was discipline, discipline, discipline. And it was great.
Can you take me through a typical day of boot camp?
Yeah. Typical day in boot camp, at about 5 o'clock in the morning, I guess, we had, in the barracks, they had a thing, and a bugle would start. They blow the bugle, and everybody would jump up and get out of bed, and you had 5 minutes to shave, go to the bathroom and shave, and get in your gear. Everything was quick. Everything was double time, and we were there for. I think we went through. We went through 10 weeks of training, yeah, and then we went on the playgrounds in San Diego, California, and we waiting to be assigned to different assignments. Some guys were assigned to ships on the guns. The other guys were assigned into infantry, 1st Marine Division. I was assigned to 1st Marine Division, and we were sent to Australia. I landed in Australia in Melbourne. We were quarantined because they come off a ship, and we're not allowed to go into the towns because we could be carrying some kind of disease. All precautions. And then, after our quarantine in Melbourne, we were sent up to a place called Ballarat. Years ago, Ballarat was a big, like the gold they found in Alaska. They found gold in Ballarat. That was well known. And the people of Ballarat treated us beautiful. They were wonderful. And we were camped in tents with 8 men in a tent, and with us were the Aussies right off to our right, about 100 yards. They were in their little 2-man tents. And this was in July, and we're freezing. Oh, it was so cold, unbelievable. We had a regular stove in the tent, and we used to go out and cut branches and keep it going to keep warm. And we stayed there so long, then we packed up and we went up to the up from Ballarat, going up towards Japan. And we went to a place called New Guinea. And New Guinea was the worst place I ever saw in my life. More diseases. They gave us shots for malaria. They gave us shots for elephantitis, whatever the hell that was, and they gave us other shots. But most of the guys survived it, but a few guys picked it up. And up in New Guinea, we always traveled 2 men together. You had to have your rifle, and you had to have your takeman. You had to have your 45s, because up there, they were headhunters. The guys you were meeting, the natives, their fathers were using heads for pillows. So every place we went, we had to look around all the time. It was terrible. I didn't like that. The worst place I ever seen in my life. Yeah. And after that, we moved up into Cape Gloucester. Cape Gloucester, we got there, and we were right. The monsoon season was beginning, and we landed. Paragira set up our tents, and they had natives up there. Before that, the Aussies had native teams cutting the kunai grass and stuff to get rid of the snakes and stuff. So we ended up, all we had there were land crabs, alligators, malaria, and marines. And it rained about 2 o'clock that afternoon, and it never stopped for 4 weeks. Unbelievable rain. From that on, I went many a time for 2 weeks without changing my clothes because there was no sense. You walked out, you would again. Yeah. And other things that occurred. If you went, we had a place to live. On the rivers coming down, we had guys on each side of the river with rifles to keep the crocodiles coming down while we were swimming. It was a really deadly, rotten place. Yeah. Then my next battle was island called Peleliu. The most fierce thing that I ever went in. I went in at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. The infantry units had all gone in the tank, and we were spare men. We had a truck with 6 men loaded with our supplies. We went in, but we didn't, our trucks were gone somewhere, so we waited. We went down over the side of the ship on cargo nets. And we had one guy get squashed. 3 guys are down on the bottom to catch you. The guys are coming down. But that goes up and down. And this one, and before you get in there, you had a full pack of stuff on your back, and before you went over the railing, the guy would tap you, and you'd unbuckle it. And if you fell in between them, the boat went up, or that went up, and they just met, you get squashed. We had one guy get squashed. And that was the danger of going from cargo nets into those boats. And it was too bad. But what was that now? That was Peleliu. And as we going in, we were going in late. But I went in on one of the
landing crafts.
Landing craft. On the landing craft, when we get so far in, they dropped the thing and we bailed out. I got out up to my knees and waded in with a rifle, my pack and stuff, and I ran up the beach. But as we were coming in, they were putting mortars right in the goddamn boats coming in. And you could see Marines floating everywhere. I never saw so many dead Marines in my life as Pellew. Most terrible goddamn battle I ever went through. And when I got in there, I jumped on top of the hole. The hole that we jumped in, before we went in, the Navy, the sailors out there, 20 miles away, you can't see them, 20 miles away, they pounded that goddamn beach, and nobody should be alive on there. But their pounding made the foxholes, so we get in, we had a foxhole to get in. That was a wonderful thing. There were sailors there, the poor sailors in a big room like this here, about 20, with big shells. They were saving our lives. They made them foxholes to get in. There was a movie now the Army had on about Razorback Ridge, where those poor guys had to go up a cliff. And there was one guy in that joined it, but he didn't want to be kill anybody. And they done an awful job on him. But they had a hard assignment, and boy, that's one of the truest things movie I ever witnessed. Wonderful. But that's the same thing there. The Navy pounded that cliff so it collapsed everything and made foxholes. So when they get up the end of them ropes they put in there, they had a foxhole to get in. That's how the Navy helped. Unbelievable. You got to give credit. And the air guys, it takes everybody working together. Like the word gung-ho. That's what that means, just Chinese. Gung-ho means work together. That's how the Chinese beat the Japs when the Japs took over their country. They moved all their stuff way up in China.
Now, Bill, you told me when you were going inland to Peleliu, you never seen so many dead Marines in all your life.
Yeah.
And you told me they were hanging off the sides of the tracks, right?
Yeah.
Were those tracks destroyed by artillery, or what did it look like, the beach? What did the beach look like on Peleliu?
It was just sand and rocks. And when I get in there, and they put the ramps down, and I went in, I went in with my pack, I ran like hell, and I jumped in a hole. In a hole was a guy, I don't know whether he was, who made the assault, whether the 5th Marines, first of all, 1st Marine Division, 1st Marines, 5th Marines, and 7th. Those were our regiments. And then you had the specials like the tankers and stuff like that, and the dogs, you know. But anyway, I jumped in a hole with a guy, and he's there, and I says, Jesus Christ, I says, you guys haven't moved in yet? He says, no. He says, something going on. We don't know what the hell it is. And all of a sudden, I was there, and the guy, some officer come running down the line. He says, the 1st Marines, go over the ridge, a small ridge, about as high as that chair. And they went up, and they went up. And then I stayed in the hole there, and waiting for someone to make another command, you know. So the guy yelled, one guy, I think the guy was a major. He come running down the beach. He says, everybody on the beach, off the beach, up on the ridge, fire, rapid fire, horizontal. Because the other Marines are down this way, you know, rapid fire. And so we sent a wall of lead. The Japs were making an attack to push us right out off into the ocean. And boy, I emptied my rifle, I emptied my cartridge belt. I got halfway through the other side, and they said, ceasefire, ceasefire. They had the tanks that get over there blew the shit out of them, and terrible, terrible battle.
Bill, was there a lot of destroyed vehicles and a lot of destroyed tracks on the beach at Peleliu?
No,
Was there supplies and stuff?
no.
What about in the water? Were there any burning landing crafts in the water?
Oh yeah, there were our crafts, and then some of those crafts, they were going by us, even when we were going down the side of the ship on things, and the first waves had gone in. They were coming out, taking out the wounded on the other side of our boat. They're bringing in the wood. It's a big circle. You're going in, you get whacked, and terrible.
What about the first time you saw a Japanese soldier? Where was that? On Cape Gloucester, or was that on Peleliu, or?
Oh no! First I saw a Jap that was on Cape Gloucester. Piles of them, yeah. And the guys were going up and cutting out the gold teeth and shit.
What did you think about that?
Huh?
What did you think about that? Getting souvenirs off the dead Japanese?
Oh no, I didn't do that because I realized that they could be wired. You step in there, you got no legs, you're gone. I didn't even, but the guys that did it. Yeah.
Could you tell me, sir, when you went in on Peleliu, you mentioned you went in about noon.
Yeah.
The invasion happened earlier that morning.
Oh.
What kind of fire were you taking on? When your craft went in around noon, what kind of fire were you all getting?
We were getting mortars, and they hit some of these boats. But they had been there so long, they were experts. They weren't training. They had every goddamn thing calibrated, and they didn't miss.
I mean, what's that like for you as an 18-year-old to see these other crafts getting hit by mortars around you?
No, I almost shit my pants.
It's a good thing your uniform was brown.
That's why we wear green uniforms. No, that was another battle like that was an island called the 2nd Marine Division went to an island called Tarawa, the island of Tarawa. What happened there was the tide changed from what they figured it, and them guys got caught out in the boats and had to wade it in almost 1,000 yards. That was a shooting gallery, killing them before you're soaking wet, your boots are wet, you're walking, you got a load of shit, and you're trying to. Tarawa was a terrible place. I wasn't there, but a buddy of mine was there, and he told me, he said the Peleliu was the second one. They were awful battles. Those were just one Marine Division, that's all.
Can you tell me, sir, on Peleliu, what are your memories of the tank battalion? How did you guys get your tanks ashore?
Oh, they took them in barges, almost like how they take the troops. They drop that and they go in. And in Okinawa, when we went into Okinawa, I was a tech then in the tank, and we were on earphones, but we were listening to everybody going in. Going in, we were all singing songs, you know. We'd, oh, don't lock me up, but steady your nerves. But anyway, I think going into Okinawa, I think 2 tanks got drowned out. They got drowned out from the naval shell that dug them holes in the water that you don't see. You go, the sailor's taking a sound and he's got solid ground. Okay, but over here is the hole. So the tank comes along and the only guys that get out are the tank commander, which was the sergeant in the Marines, and the gunner. 2 guys down below the loader and the thing they don't get out, they get drowned. And when my tank got hit, towards the end of the battle, they used my tank. We got hit. The guy in front of me, our bow gunner, we all got knocked out. The big shell was a 1.5 shell in us, and I tried to work the turret. Normally, I got a thing electrical. That was gone. Looked like my driver got hit. I could see a little flame down there, but that was something on his clothes that we found out later. We all got knocked out. Everybody was knocked out. I was the first one to come to. So I got right up on my gun and moved. I could see the fire where the driver was. I couldn't turn. We had a handle to do. That didn't work either. It had jarred the goddamn turret and bent it, so it didn't move at all. So what they do with our tank, they just use it for spare parts. They went down where the guys drowned. That tank was in good shape, and they pulled up and made us a new tank to use. I spent 12 days in the Army Field Hospital. Yeah, I couldn't walk. I had to learn to walk. A lot of guys can't stand a tank. Once they pull the hatches, it's bad. Yeah, but it's experience. Everybody has their experience, and you learn by them.
Did everyone in your tank survive, or what happened to that man who you thought was hit?
Oh, he had asked me before when we started. We were on the line, and our lieutenant says, Griffiths says, pick out what you think where they would be, and we were like a half circle. I was firing at, and where I thought, if you were a Jap, where the hell would you be? And that's how I felt as a gunner. I'd say, now, like when you train, it's the training shit, but I pick out odd places, and I throw around in there, you know, and I'd never round. And before we done that, my gunner down, I had my feet on his shoulder, and my gunner, and he yelled up. He says, Griff, can I use a machine gun? I says, start firing as soon as I throw one round in there, you know. So he was firing his machine gun, and he had his hand on the thing. And when we get hit, his hand was on, they found his arm. His arm snapped off right here with the concussion, and they found his arm. And I tried to get him out. I crawled up the tank and went on the top of the front of the tank and get in the hatch to get him. But I get in there and I couldn't get him. I had no more strength. I don't know what they called it, but I was out of it. But anyway, we got him out, and they took him out to the hospital ship, and last we heard, he died aboard the ship and buried at sea. Yeah, and they get when the tanks just sunk, and I become our new tank. So when I come out of the Army hospital, the tank was ready. They were waiting for me. The guys, the same my crew, and yeah.
I really appreciate you sharing that story.
Yeah.
You don't remember his name, do you?
Huh?
Do you remember his name?
Who?
The machine gunner who was killed?
Munching. Yeah.
Do you remember where he was from or anything about his personality? What kind of person he was?
One wonderful guy. Yeah, Munching. But see, we never got close to guys' names. But, if anyone can, you didn't get too close. Like if you were Polak, we call you Ski. That's it. And if you were any other name, you know, we always use funny names, or you know, or big teeth. Hey, big teeth. Hey, big teeth. You know, or we had a big head. Hey, big head. You know, you might get too personal, because it hurt too much. You know, you know, only takes so much. Yeah.
Going back to Peleliu, sir, after the landing, there was a big battle on the runway. There was an airstrip on Peleliu,
Yeah.
and the Japanese actually had some tanks on that airstrip.
That's right. That's right.
Can you tell me what your memories of that are?
Well, memories of that is when I got in, I jumped in a hole, and that regiment got called up, and then went over that little ridge. And then when the actual fighting started, everybody off the beach get up and fire at will, fire at will, fire at will. This guy running down, he's running between mortars, a naval officer, you know. Yeah.
And what do you remember about those Japanese tanks?
Oh, they were pieces of shit. They were all just small tanks. They were like our small tanks. A small tank was deadly. I didn't like small tanks. I trained in them, but I was in a Sherman. The Sherman was a good tank. 5 men in a tank. Yeah.
So I know you mentioned that the only time you were actually in the tank as a crew member was on Okinawa.
Yeah.
So in those other battles on Peleliu and Cape Gloucester,
Yeah.
what would your job day to day be?
Day to day? Well, we help tighten up the tracks on the tanks and oil the stuff, keep it well oiled, the thing, because the salt water, wash it off and everything like that. And then we reload guns and stuff and get other belts and stuff ready for instant use. Yeah. You always have always something. Yeah.
Do you have an idea of how many tanks were in the 1st Tank Battalion?
And the things, yeah. Well, we were A Company, and we had 5 tanks. And B Company had 5 tanks, and C Company, and I kind of, that's about all I know, because I wasn't anybody to know too much. I was just a person to do my job, and that's it, you know. I didn't really see charts. They don't show you too much.
I'm sure on Cape Gloucester, it was very difficult to move the tanks because of all the mud.
Oh, yeah.
What did you guys figure out? What did you do?
Yeah. Well, on Cape Gloucester, they moved down to took the airfield. That was our main objective. And the rain and stuff, the Japs that we were fighting, they were headed north to Rabaul. Rabaul controlled New Britain. They had about 250,000 Japs up there, airfields and everything. And these guys that we first started fighting, they were all starving and shit, because the Navy had, our Navy had, and the Australian Navy had cut off anybody feeding them. So it was a mess. I mean, that's about all I know about it.
Can you tell me a little bit about your family? Did you have any brothers or sisters?
Yes. My oldest brother, 7 years older than me, was a naval aviator. He flew a torpedo bomber, flew out of Quincy and controlled the Atlantic coast for submarines. He flew from from Quincy to Halifax, Newfoundland, I guess, back and forth. Like he'd probably do it for 4 hours. Next plane come up and they do it, And my kid brother, he was a top sergeant in the army, and he was overseas in Japan.
And while we're talking about your family,
Yeah.
can you tell me about what life was like growing up in the Depression?
During the Depression, oh, it was terrible. In the Depression, you'd see young men, 16, 17 years old, 18, on street corners. No jobs, no jobs at all. And we used to go as kids. We used to go down the dumps from the Ford plant there, and up a place called McCarty's Ledge. Go up there, we go and pick up the tonic bottles, and we'd get 2 or 3 tonic bottles and go home and clean them and go to the show. 10 cents to get in the show, and you get 5 cents, you get a box of popcorn. That's how we lived, the kids. And we find wheels in different people have a bike and the wheels are big, and they throw the bike out. We go and get the wheels, and we get 2x4s and wooden boxes that carried all different kinds of food to the groceries. We take them boxes and get the roller skates wheels and make our own carts and play with. And that's how I did it. And everybody we had about the same clothes. The welfare gave out clothes. You could tell who was on welfare in the classroom. You'd see 3/4 of the classroom. No, other guys were, their fathers were firemen, the fathers were cops, and they had steady jobs. And the cops and firemen had to pay so much out of their pay every week for those people to help them, Oh, it was terrible, Jesus Christ. Yeah.
What was your father's profession?
My father was a man of the sea, fisherman. He'd go out and he'd have wonderful trips and make good money. Other times he'd go out and come back, they got nothing. And it was up and down, And during the war, my mother worked in the Watertown Arsenal making 155 guns. They say that was the gun that hit my tank. I mean the size of the gun that hit my tank. And my mother worked there, and making that. Yeah.
And just tell me, sir, before we get back into your time overseas, before the war broke out, before Pearl Harbor, when you were a kid, what did you want to do with your life?
I don't know. I always liked geography and history. I got all A's and B's in geography. Always had. I don't know. At that time, I used to make model airplanes. I was interested in airplanes, Used to make them, and you spend a week and make them out of plastic, then you set them on fire and throw them and watch them come down the planes. That was a big time, and everybody was making model airplanes. Yeah.
And so just jump forward. When you went to boot camp in San Diego, do you remember the phrase, "You'll be sorry"?
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
Pretend I don't know about that.
oh yeah.
What did that mean?
Oh. Well, I mean, the guys that are going out graduating, you know, and they see you coming in civilian clothes and everything, you know, and you'll be sorry. And we didn't know what the hell they meant, but we found out. If you had nice hair, wavy hair and shit, you know, boy, the barber gets you in 2 minutes. You know, bald head, screw, get out.
So, you go overseas, you know, you mentioned you went to New Guinea and then Cape Gloucester.
Yeah.
That's a long journey by ship.
Oh yeah,
What
yeah.
what do you remember about that journey?
Oh, on the ships, any ship we get on, we were treated wonderful. The crews were very good. They'd be going by the kitchen, you know, and you're looking, if you hear cooking something, they say, "Hey, want one?" Yeah, they were good.
You didn't get seasick?
Huh?
Did you get seasick?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I got that quite a few times. That's terrible. Oh, you want to die? Throw you over. Throw me overboard, for Christ's sake. Get seasick is terrible.
And
I never was seasick. But the first time you get it, oh boy. Yeah. After that, you're an old timer, you know.
so you mentioned to Andrew that the first time you saw Japanese casualties, dead Japanese, was on Cape Gloucester, right?
Yeah.
Do you remember the first time you saw Japanese soldiers that were alive when you guys were in a firefight? Where was that?
Yeah, that. Let me see now. I think that was on Okinawa. We had moved down, and we went over like a creek, a big water pipe in there, and we had gone by the pipe, and we're going down the road, and we got a call, and they said, "Griff, put a few rounds in that water tank there." So I pointed my gun there, and I just used a machine gun. I put about I put about 8 inches of my line in there, and those bullets ricocheted all over there. Anybody in there, clean them out, you know. And I didn't see nothing then, but I went down the road. And then jumped up in front of the tank, and I had just been using my machine gun, and he did it, and the quick action, I hit him with the goddamn 75 shell. And the two guys, my driver and the bow gunner, they said, "Griff, we could shoot right through his back." Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I hit him with a thing, you know, and they're all in. For Christ's sake, you're wasting ammo. You should have hit him. Yeah, but I just got shooting in the tunnel, so I wasn't thinking right, and I just boom, 75 rounds gone right through him, and the guys downstairs, they said that they could see a hole right through him.
You almost make me feel sorry for him.
No, we rolled over and squashed him. Put him out of his misery, you know.
Was that the first time that you knew you actually hit the enemy?
Huh?
Was that the first time that you knew you actually hit the enemy?
Oh no, I hit him before. I was told to fire at certain places, certain hills, and there were gun emplacements and stuff there. caved them all in and smothered them all. Because there's no more fire. Infantry says no more fire comes from those caves that you pounded, you know. Yeah.
Now, I really appreciate you sharing those stories.
But I'll tell you, on Peleliu, we, when Peleliu battle was over, my tank company left, but they left six of us, and they gave us a machine gun. And we were going to go up on the ridges in Peleliu. They went off, and the army was coming in about a week later. But in the meantime, we were assigned to they took a machine gun off our tank, one of the tanks, and they gave us buckets of ammo. And we were all on the airfield. When they crossed the airfield, and there were dead Japs everywhere there. But where he's we're here with a machine gun, and when come time to eat, we'd have a thing. You have your mess gear, right? So one guy, you crack up what you're going to eat, you know, and you take the hood off and you put it on, and he slams it shut. And you're still eating flies so fast. They come up from the dead bodies. Jesus Christ. So,
I mean, what's that like to be in a situation where you're just surrounded by the dead enemy?
yeah, nothing to do. Yeah, boy. So you pick, guy had to be quick. Okay, Griff? Okay. And you shut it quick. You still get a few of them, you know. So a fly won't kill you. We found out that we didn't die.
And also, it was so hot down there.
Yeah, oh
so
yeah.
the bodies would get...
Oh yeah. Yeah, on Peleliu, gee. On Peleliu, I think it was 110. That was the heat. You're soaking wet. Sweat and everything. You're wet all the time, just sweat. Yeah, but 110 we were fighting. Yeah. You probably read about that someday, that island.
Well,
yeah. And Tarawa.
Some of the veterans who I've interviewed who fought on Peleliu, they've mentioned that when you guys got there the first day, there was no water. It was 105 degrees, and there was no water except what you had in your canteen.
Oh, yeah. And when the water did come in, it come in 50-gallon drums. But before we went in a battle, months before, each company's infantry company and our company, whatever company you were in, you had to swab them out, get the oil out of the goddamn things. Okay, but some of them weren't clean too good. So they dropped them off, and when they floated in, and we each company would grab some, you go, take it back to your area, open it up, and then every dip in, and everybody would get it. Everybody get the shits. It wasn't clean. And all you were doing, you were shitting all day, shitting all week. Unbelievable. Jesus.
Did you drink that water yourself?
Oh, sure. It was water. Because there was no water. We were sweating. It's 115, 110 or 15. That's tough.
I've heard about that so many times,
You
and
heard
I
that?
still can't believe it.
Oh, I
the only water they gave you had oil in it.
Yeah. Well, the only water you had, when you were going in, you had 2 canteens because they knew there's no water on this island. Okay. So you could go with 2 canteens if you're handy, or if they didn't get shot off your back when you're laying down. But on the tanks that come on, they had the 5-gallon jugs. about 5 on each tank. The Japs machine gun on them. They're pissing all off. So it ends up all you got your canteens. Oh, that was terrible.
You mentioned earlier that as you went into Peleliu, the Japanese were throwing mortars at you, at your craft, and some of the crafts around you got hit.
Yeah.
Did you see them after they were hit, or you saw them getting hit?
Some getting hit.
I mean, what's that like?
Fucking guys flying through the air. Unbelievable. Yeah. Yeah. It was scary.
And so you think that the Japanese had zeroed in
Oh,
all the...
Oh, they had it down. They could put it in your eyeball. In your mouth, they could have put it in.
The mortar.
Oh, they that circle there, boy, when he dropped them, they knew where they were putting them. They would let you fly in that zone and let you have it. Yeah.
How long were you on Peleliu, sir?
Peleliu, I was right to the very end when the Army came in. Army took it over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any memorable stories about your experiences with the tanks on Peleliu? Servicing any of them, or?
Oh no, we didn't have to. Peleliu wasn't that long a battle. I forget how long it was. It was quick.
I guess what I'm trying to understand is, on Peleliu, you weren't in the tank itself, but you also were not in a rifle company. So what were you all doing after you all made the invasion and after you were there a couple of days? What did they have you all do for the rest of the battle? Did you stay close to the beaches during the campaign, or?
Oh yeah, we stayed near the beach, and they bringing in supplies, and we were moving them. Yeah, as the sailors are bringing in, they'd screw back, and anybody that was wounded, they take out to the hospital ships. The hospital ships offshore. The two of them were the Mercy, was called the Mercy, and another one was called the Comfort. There's a third one. I can't think of the third one. Yeah. Everything was so organized. The military is so organized. It's amazing. Yeah, they do great work.
We forgot to ask you.
Then they have grave registration. Or sometimes they had us. They take so many men from a company, and you dig graves, and they'd grave registration guys would come along with the bodies, and they'd wrap them in the marine blanket, and they put them in a hole. We get out of the hole. They put them in, and they take a dog. They take off one of his dog's hogs, and they put it on his bone. If there's no skin, they put it on a rib, so they know who it is. That's it.
They had you do this as well?
Yeah, well, yeah. I dug a lot of graves. Yeah. Everybody becomes a grave digger. Yeah, big truckloads that come up with the dead, and they put them down, and they if you had a canteen, it was still on, they'd punch a hole in the canteen and go up here, and on his brown breast thing with the hatchet, they put a snap in a hole in his canteen, put that in there, and put the canteen around a river or someplace where it don't fall off. Then they put them down, and we cover them. Yeah, we had details like that. Yeah.
Before you went to Peleliu, you guys went to Pavuvu.
Oh, Pavuvu.
Do you remember that island?
Oh, yeah. Well, that wasn't a landing.
Yeah, I know it was
That was a rest camp.
I know, but it wasn't a very good one, was it?
Oh, Jesus Christ. There was rats, land crabs, spiders, unbelievable. And before you get any mosquito net, in the evening, you had to open your mosquito net all the way, and there'd be a land crab in there. Oh,
Crabs.
yeah.
Now, you guys also had to build the rest area, right?
Yeah.
They sent you to Pavuvu, and you had to build the barracks and everything.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Nothing there.
Is that somewhere you'd ever want to go back to?
The only place I would like to go back to was Australia. I love the Aussies. They were good. They were great people. They brought you in their homes because if we didn't hit New Guinea, the Japs would have taken Australia. And all the Australians, all their troops are in Africa with
The British.
yeah, and they were defenseless. It was the American army that was up in New Guinea there, and the Army Air Force. The Army didn't have an army. The United States didn't have an Air Force. They had an Army Air Force, and the Marines had a few planes, and the Coast Guard had a few planes. That's all. There was no, but the guy that was in charge of the Army Air Corps, he's the guy that made it the United States Air Force. I can't think of his name.
No, you're absolutely right.
But he was a big time fighter ace, pilot. He was quite a man, that guy. I can't recall his name.
The civilians in Australia,
Yeah.
I mean, they because of Guadalcanal and Cape Gloucester, I mean, like you said, you guys saved them from invasion.
Yeah.
You joined the outfit after Guadalcanal.
Yeah.
What did some of the Guadalcanal veterans tell you about, Guadalcanal? That was the first time any Americans saw action in the
Yeah.
war.
Oh, my picture there. Ralph Burpee was there. He was in the 5th Marines. One of my kids we joined. Ralph, he was in the 5th Marines, and he said when they went ashore, there was no fighting. It was a surprise, completely surprised. Japs had no idea. All of a sudden, but it wasn't a full division. The other one regiment, the 7th Regiment, was in New Zealand. So there were only two, the other 3 regiments, only 2 went to the Guadalcanal. Well, the other guys come back afterwards, left New Zealand, and reinforced the casualties. But anyway, what happened was the Jap Navy pulled up, and they bombed the hell out of them. They shelled the hell out of them, and they were shelled day and night. And at nighttime they were bombed, and it went on for about a month. No American ships are anywhere. The ships that took them there, they had a screw because America only had a few ships. The Japs sunk them all at Pearl Harbor. So I had a small navy. They brought in supplies, they brought in reserves, troops and stuff, and then they'd get away from there, because the Japs control the water, they control the land, they control the air. You were in a pocket. If you didn't survive, if you survived, you were lucky.
Thank you for explaining that.
Yeah.
Today, the kids who grow up, they're so fortunate and they don't even know it, you know, the world that we live in.
Yeah.
But when you were 17 and 18, you know, on Cape Gloucester, you mentioned that it started to rain one day and it went for 4 weeks.
Oh, yeah.
How do you sleep in a foxhole when it's raining?
You slip. If you get out of your foxhole, you get popped. Yeah.
But it would just fill up with water,
You
right?
sit in, yeah. You're sitting like that, close, and you're watching behind me, and I'm watching behind you. Yeah. So I got it right here. If I see something behind you, or you, move it away, you know. Well, some guy throws a hand grenade in there. Goodbye.
I actually met one veteran who said on Cape Gloucester, moss started to grow on his shoes.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
I think he wants his drink.
You mean your
Take a
beer?
break.
Were you looking for a drink?
No, it's good, it's good. Look at that.
Anything you want to share, go ahead.
Okinawa. Yeah, it's Okinawa. On Okinawa, we hit Okinawa. The Japs had done different attacks. They didn't defend beaches. We, in Okinawa, for Christ's sake, we were in our tank going in. We were singing, "Don't fence me in." Here we are, all buttoned up in the tank to get your nerves, help you. Anyway, so, and we get in there, nothing. We went right across the island of Okinawa, and at nighttime we were on the other side of the island. That was about 6 miles in. And then the next day, we the order come out, A Company tanks, you guys are going to join the 6th Marine Division. They're going north to clean all the Japs up there, you know. So they needed a little help from tanks. So we were the guys, 5 tanks that went up. And we went up there, and we didn't have to shoot nothing. We didn't come across nothing. We were right by the coastline, the road there. But the guys that were out on patrol, they were picking up Japs and fighting them. But small groups, you know. So one day, I think it was 4 days, we were up there, let's see, 1, 2, 3, we were on there about, we were in there about 7 to 8 days. So we were on the ocean. Ocean was on our left. We could see the ocean. We had a big hill up, you know, little humps here and there. And we had sat down, had a break. Everybody had just finished chow and dry rations and stuff. And we're all there. And all of a sudden, we could hear on our left, everybody yelling, wave, 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 you know. So we caught him when it was. There was a jet plane coming. He was only, for Christ's sake, about 500 feet off the ground. He's coming. So there was a place he could land anywhere. He come around, well, we heard wave, wave, wave. So everybody started waving. We started waving, you know. But don't shoot, don't shoot, don't shoot, wave, wave, don't shoot, wave. So we all saying, don't shoot, don't shoot. Pass it on to the guys on our left, you know. But boy, that guy, he wasn't sure what he saw, you know. He thought we were Japs, because we're all waving them. So, and then we went out. When he comes back, everybody shoot. Every gun you got, let it go. you know. And sure enough, he come back. Of course, we couldn't see him, but here he comes. He's coming, you know. Everybody's got pistols, rifles, machine guns, and everything. He's going through a wall of lead, and you can see part of his tail fall off. You can see the part of his wing get hit, and the engine started puttering, and then he disappeared out of our sight. But anyway, about the guys that were out on patrol, they saw it come down in the bush, but they come down right where there's a big patrol of troops coming back from patrol, and they got the pilot. He crashed, but he didn't get killed. And someone yelled to us, "Hey, they're bringing back that pilot. Yeah, he's alive, you know." So we all went up to the area where he was coming back, and we went up there and watched, you know. And there's two big Marines on each side of this Jap, and all he had on, they stripped him down. All he had on was the skivvies, and one on each side of him, and one in the back. And every time he slowed down, the big Marine in the back would kick him in the ass, and he'd go up in the air about 3-4 feet and land again, you know. And he'd go a little more, and then the guy get up, you know. And I saw him kick him about 3 times. And then the officers come up, "You guys, but anybody below a major, get out of here. Go back to your area," you know. So we had to go back to our area. So they must have questioned him and learned something from him.
You're a very good storyteller.
Yeah.
Seriously, you're very interesting.
But that was good. That was an incident I'll never forget. It just come out of nowhere. You know, we're sitting there, and gee, what are they saying? What are they saying? Then someone yelled down, "Wave! Don't shoot! Wave! Don't shoot!" So wave. So we passed the word down. And I passed it, everybody passes the word. But boy, and then the word was passed amongst the troops. Everybody with a gun shoot, rifle, pistol, anything, you know. So we all laid back there, and here he comes, you know, and got the big Zero fighter pilot there, and you could see him, and when we waved, he waved back. But when he come the second time, he was still going about the same speed. He didn't believe what he was watching, you know. I'll never forget that. It was funny.
It reminds me, you know, did you witness any of the kamikaze attacks on the Navy? On Okinawa, there was a lot of Japanese planes that would, you know.
Oh, no. Well, you did, looking out at sea. But so far out, all you see is a flash, big flash all of a sudden. Yeah, no.
And I was talking to your grandson. How long were you on Okinawa before you were hit?
Huh?
How long were you on Okinawa before you were hit?
How long?
Before you were wounded, how long would you say you were on the island?
Oh, we have to see. About 3/4 of the time. Yeah.
Yeah, because the battle was about 82 days.
Yeah.
You guys got there on April 1st.
Yeah.
April Fool's Day.
Yeah.
So I don't know what three.
Yeah.
I'm not too
Yeah.
good at maths.
No.
75% of 80.
We about 3/4 of the time because the last part is where we were sitting around with our machine gun nest waiting to go up on the ridge. If the gun got knocked out, we'd go up.
Where did you get hit in the tank? What island?
Huh?
When you got hit in the tank, where was that?
Okinawa.
It was Okinawa. Okay.
As I come into, as we get, when I joined them in Melbourne, we got there, we got off the ship, and
Look at the camera there, Grandpa.
got off the ship, and they put us in trucks. They took us to I can't recall the place.
That's a funny name of a town.
Yeah.
No, I'm joking.
But anyway, it was raining, and it must have been about 400 or 500 of us. Some guys for artillery replacements, infantry replacement, tank replacements, and that's it. So the tank replacements, there were about 40 of us. So they went down there and says, 1, 2, 3, A Company, 1, 2, 3, B Company, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, C Company, D Company, 3 guys. Rest of you guys, all tank maintenance. That's, that was it. We're all tank men. We all can do it. Anyone else can get in and drive it, everything, you know. But then you get the opportunity.
When you were on Okinawa, what do you remember about the civilians on the island? Did you have any interactions with the civilians?
No, but they were always bowing, and you see some of the poor people, they cripple certain ways, diseases they had, you know. We would go to them. We'd give the kids candy bars and stuff. Or we'd pass them. We'd pass some old lady sitting down, kind of bent over, you know, and we'd give her cookies and stuff, you know, and give her a drink out of our canteen. Yeah.
And they had a lot of tombs. For the Okinawa people, the tombs were very important.
Oh, the tombs, yeah. The tombs were big square blocks built at a slant on a hill like that, with one little place where you put the bodies in. And we broke into them, and we used them for air raids, get in there. But they were filled with lice and shit, you know, fleas. And on the shelf, they had little shelves, and you see with a little baby and a grown up, a teenager, a mother, a father, a grandfather. Yeah, they had high respect for the dead. Yeah.
And the Japanese would also use the tombs for bunkers to fight out of.
Oh, sure.
The Japanese didn't have as much respect.
Yeah, oh no. Yep.
How did you hear about the attack on Pearl Harbor?
Sunday morning, we had in my house, we had a little radio about like that, like a little cigar box, and it says, "Japs have bombed Pearl Harbor." Oof. Sunday morning, and that's where they had the battleships all line up. I think that was a setup. See, I'll tell you why. When I was in San Diego, that was the naval base for the Pacific Fleet. North Island was their big thing. But they knew a war was coming, so they moved the fleet to Hawaii because they knew where Hawaii was going to get whacked. It's so far away, you know. And they lined up all the old battleships. To move a battleship cost a fortune. They could move 2 or 3 destroyers do the same job. Not the same job, but a pretty good job. And sure enough, when they hit Pearl Harbor, they sunk the Navy. All the big battle wagons were the old battle wagons. They're ready to go anyway. But I think it was a setup.
Sorry. Did you go to the? You see it in the movies, Grandpa? Did you see Pearl Harbor in a movie theater?
Yeah,
It,
yeah. But when I was in San Diego, that fleet was based in San Diego.
Oh, you were asking about the movie?
yeah. No. Didn't you go to the movie theater and watch something about Pearl Harbor?
Huh?
Yeah.
I'll
Don't worry about it.
No, I'll
There's a story there.
Sure. So from the way you heard it, is that how he actually heard about Pearl Harbor, or that he went there after the
I think
radio?
he saw some footage or something.
Okay.
There,
They used to do newsreels after
Yeah,
the movies.
yeah.
After Pearl Harbor was attacked, do you remember going to a movie theater and seeing a newsreel about Pearl Harbor?
I don't think they had newsreels. They had what they call a March of Time. The March of Time showed it, but it comes out once a month. You didn't go to show other than once a month they had March of Time, and they show you what went on. Yeah.
What was that like for you at 17 years old to know that your country had been attacked?
Oh, I was mad. The sailors, for Christ's sake, the sleep, Sunday, all they had was a regular post to run the ship and security. And the rest of the guys are all sleeping. Or they're on vacation, they're all down in Hawaii, you know.
Something interesting I just read. Because it was a Sunday, all the officers on most of the ships, they lived off of the ship. They lived at a house.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And so the only people who would have been on the ship on a Sunday were the kids,
Yeah.
guys like you.
Yeah,
The
sure.
average age for the person killed at Pearl Harbor was 18.
Yeah, yeah,
Can you imagine that?
yeah.
You know, I mean, they were murdered, really. I mean, they were murdered.
And when you go down to Hawaii, you can see that the ships, they left all the bodies of the sailors there, a monument. I think when you see that, it's kind of sad. Jesus, get awful feeling. You know, there's about 1,600 men down there dead. But I think he did the right thing. They're all buddies. They all went at one time, everybody. He made a monument. I don't know who the guy thought that up, but that's great. That's good.
So,
It was well done.
before we wrap up, I just have a couple more things about Okinawa, if that's okay.
Huh?
I just have a couple more questions about Okinawa, if that's okay. I'm just going to ask you a couple more things about Okinawa.
Okay.
Okay. Andrew was telling me a story where you were in your tank and you guys were leading a charge and you saw hundreds of Marines behind you with their bayonets. Does that ring a bell?
Oh, yeah.
If you could pretend that
Oh.
I don't know anything about it.
Oh, that was impressive. Boy, when they said the war was over, you know, we're glad, you know. Oh shit, we're gonna go home, you know. So the last job we had, we were down south on. We were down the south Okinawa. We pushed them all out in the ocean and shit. Anyway, the infantry come down, and they lined up, and a tank here, a tank there, and there, and we went down through a field there, and we're emptying our machine guns, spraying everything ahead of us. If there were bombs or something, landmines, bombed and cheering like hell. It was so nice to go. And we were cutting that grass down, you know, and boy, and the infantry had their bayonets all set, and they were howling, you know. Good Christ, about 800 men were. It was so great.
That was perfect. Now, you were on Okinawa for quite a while. You mentioned you were in a Sherman tank.
Yeah.
Did you guys name your tanks?
Huh?
Did you name your tank?
No. We just had numbers. I was at A6. Yeah.
And for those who don't know, could you explain the structure of the crew in the tank? How many men are in the tank and what are the different jobs?
There's 5 men in the tank. The driver is right there. The bow gunner is right here. He's almost my feet are almost on his shoulders. I can touch his shoulder like that, you know, because I got a stool that comes out from the side of the tank. You can pull it up and sit on it. I was sitting on that when I got blown up. So you got a driver, a bow gunner, and then you get the gunner, and then you get the loader on my left. That loads my gun. Every time the gunner, I'm waiting there. I can't touch my gun until that guy puts that shell in. He whacks my helmet, and then I can fire. No whack, no fire. You might catch him, his head near that thing. When that comes back, you'd have blood brains all over the place. You don't do nothing till you get that tap. And the tank commander, my tank commander was a sergeant. I was a corporal. The other guys, they were PFCs. But every man could do the job, the emergency.
What did you think of your tank commander?
Huh?
What did you think of your tank commander?
Good man. But he had a very sad story. I mean, he come from another division. I think he was in the 2nd Division. I think he was on Chihuahua. He was in a light tank, 15-ton tank. There's only 4 men in that tank. But if the Japs opened up on him, he was a driver. Yeah. He never talked too much about it, but anyway, he was a driver, and when his tank got hit, and his bow gunner's head fell in his lap. That's why the guy never talked too much. He was a good guy, but someone else told me the story what happened about him, you know. So he didn't want to stay in that tank, so they said, put him in the 1st Division, you know. And that's how we got in the Sherman tank. But imagine he's driving and boom, they get hit, and then get hit, guys, terrible.
That's why you said you don't make friends.
No, you don't make friends.
You can go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead, have a sip, Grandpa. Have a sip of your beer.
You can drink the beer.
Here's to the real heroes. Poor men who didn't make it.
Did he talk to you guys when you guys were growing up about the war?
Yeah.
He's always been open about it.
Yeah.
He's a great. I wish Andrew told me about him a while ago. He's very.
He's always been a great storyteller.
Yeah, he's great. He's very nice, very charismatic. We're almost done, okay?
Huh?
We're almost done.
Yeah?
You know, some of the veterans, some of the tanker veterans who I've met who fought in the European theater, they had to deal with landmines and they had to deal with the German tanks.
Oh.
But on Okinawa, did you have any issues with the enemy tanks or landmines at all?
No. Oh, the landmines, yeah. But we didn't come across any. But see, we were mostly artillery for the infantry. When the infantry had a problem, we called in, solved the problem. But like in Europe, there were thousands of tanks fighting each other. You know, different type of war, different terrain.
So some of the Marine tanks had flamethrowers on them.
Yeah,
Did yours?
yeah. No.
How did they choose who had the flamethrowers and who didn't?
Well, they called them flamethrowers because the Japs had underground tunnels, and the only way you could get at them, you probably blow up a side of a hill, collapse caves, but they had tunnels. They come out, and in some places they had steel doors, big steel doors. They open up, and they pick out that big gun, like the one that whacked me. You know, I never saw one, but they told me what it looked like. You know, when they captured the hill. Yeah.
Are there any other stories you remember about firing the cannon on Okinawa, firing the 75 millimeter, or using the machine gun against the Japanese?
No. That's all I can recall, yeah.
'Cause you mentioned earlier that you guys would be told that there would be some Japanese in an area.
Yeah.
You would fire a shell and it would cave in.
Yeah.
How would you know that's where the Japanese were? Is that you would see them, or the infantry would point them
No.
out?
Infantry report them. See, during the night, they get fire and they see a flash here, a flash there. But maybe in the daytime, they might move to another place. Okay? So that's why they say, Griff, where would you be if you were the Jap? So I try to figure, well, they know I'm here in the daytime. I'm going to move over here. So that's the way I always fired. And I must have got results on how many you killed, but you never know.
And you guys, did your tank ever have the opportunity to take prisoners?
No.
You know, a lot of the Japanese, they would pretend to surrender, and then they would duck down,
Oh, no.
and there would be a guy who had a machine gun
Oh, yeah.
on his
oh,
back,
yeah.
and then
Yeah, that's infantry. Yeah. Infantry saw that. Yeah.
a lot of the veterans have told me the only good Jap is a dead one.
That's right. That's right.
That's a very common phrase.
Yeah.
But because I mean, they would pretend to be wounded, or they would pretend to be dead, and
Oh,
then
yeah.
the American medics would come to help them, and they would have a grenade.
Yeah.
I mean, they would do anything just to kill more. It's horrible.
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me.
In the Korean War, the Japs would push the civilians, women, children, old people, in front of them, behind the tank, to get at the tank. They didn't give a shit. And that's how in Korea, they captured a couple of tanks like that.
On Saipan, they were similar.
Saipan, yeah.
They made the civilians jump off the cliffs.
Yeah, that's right.
The civilians were brainwashed. They thought that in order to become a Marine, you had to kill your grandmother,
Oh, yeah,
and they were afraid of you all.
yeah.
But anyways, go ahead, drink that, and then we'll finish up, sir. I'm sure you really should. If you post a picture, I'm sure online and tag your company. There's this guy who drinks Coors beer, and he's like 102. and they'd give him a lifetime supply. Because his thing is that he drinks one a day.
Really?
Yeah, and so they've given him a lifetime supply.
Send me the 10-second video.
No, absolutely.
We'll send it to Yingling.
After we're done with this, we'll do that quickly. I'm more than happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I would feel good. I would feel like
He'd be pretty happy too.
Yeah, you would.
no, they would definitely use it for a PR opportunity.
Sure.
Everyone
Yeah.
wins in
Sure,
that.
yeah.
So we'll do that. Okay, sir. I apologize if you've said this before, but that story when your tank was hit, where actually was the tank hit? Where on the tank was it hit?
I'm sitting on my stool right here, right?
Uh-huh.
Val Gunner's down here with his machine gun. I told him he says, Griff, can I fire one machine gun? Machine gun's all yours. When I tell you start firing, you start firing. So then we get whacked. No, I had told him to fire. He was firing when his arm snapped off. It hit well, here's the tank. It hit right about here, the big seam all the way down the tank, where the well, big well, and it split it about 12, 14 inches open. But it moved that turret, and the turret bent because I tried my electric, and then I went right to my manual. I couldn't do nothing. I had to get up in the hatch and go around and get him. His hatch was open. What the hell was his hatch? Hatch was open. Yeah, his hatch was open. Why? Oh, somebody had gave him 2 cans of ammo. Yeah. But anyway, that's what happened. Yeah.
And your Purple Heart, was that from the concussion of the shell?
Huh?
Was that from the when you were wounded? Was it you were wounded through the concussion, or did some of the shrapnel of the shell actually?
No. I didn't bleed at all. I just kept blowing, slammed against the turret and knocked out. It was all knocked out. I was the first one that come around. Yeah.
And that was the war then for you. That was the end of the war.
Yeah.
No.
You went back. Yeah.
You went back?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no. I went to a Army field hospital. I couldn't walk. I went around trying to get him out and stuff. I come back and then we went back behind the tank, and the tank was coming up to pull us out because they knew on the radio somebody called and said there's a man been hit in that tank, you know. I went out behind the tank and we were opening our cable so they could put their cable on and pull the tank down and get him up to a hospital quick. Yeah. But I just walking. I just dropped. I got up and I couldn't walk. They had to hold me, and I took two steps and went a concussion and blast. And they gave me morphine and took me up to Army Field Hospital. In the hospital there, the doctor says, you're not fit for combat. He says, you're worn out. And he wrote a thing up about me. And so about, I was there about 12 days, and in comes a Marine truck picking up the Marines. So I felt good, went up, got out of the truck, went back. The guys were waiting for me. They had gotten one of the tanks that drowned. We had a tank, and I was the gunner. I was back a gunner. Back in yeah. And I went, finished the war there.
How did you hear about the bombs being dropped and the war was over?
Huh?
How did you hear about the war being over when the bombs were dropped?
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, everybody cheered. Yeah, that was great. That was a great relief, you know, boy. Yeah.
And tell me about your reunion when you first came back home. What was that like to see your family again?
Well, the war was over. I got discharged from Norfolk, Virginia. I had to finish out my enlistment. I was a regular Marine. I had about 2 months to go, so I thought they were going to send me to Boston Navy Yard, but no, go down to South Carolina. So I went down there and I was doing brig duty. I was walking up and down in a prison cell with sailors and Marines, you know. I hated that duty.
You were telling me about your reunion with your family when you first saw your folks again.
Oh. Well, when I get off the train from South Carolina, South Station here, I took a bus down Mr. Gab here. Mr. Gab, there used to be a coffee shop down there, getting nice sandwiches. So I had my sea bag, and I had oh yeah, I got off the bus. The bus stopped at Hager's Ice Cream. Used to be a big ice cream plant down there, and I was there, and I was going to go across the street and get a snack, and this little kid comes up to me and he says, "I know you." He says, "You're Billy Griff." And I said, "Yeah." I said, "Who are you?" "I'm Joey Greedy." Joey Greedy. Anthony Greedy was in the Marines too. He was in the 1st Marines. And I said, "Hey, Joey. Joey Greedy, oh yeah. You know where my house is, right?" He says, "Yeah." And he had a little buddy with him, so, you know. I says, "Can you do me a big favor?" And he says, "Yeah, what?" I says, "Can you and your pal carry this sea bag up and tell my mother that I'll be up in about an hour, you know, that everything's okay?" And so he says, "Sure." So I reached in my pocket. I gave each kid $1. They were happy as shit too. Yeah, they were only about, I'd say they were 5 and maybe 5 and 7. Yeah, so each one got on, then they went dancing off up Temple Street, get up my front porch in there, drop the sea bag and rang the bell. My mother answered. I didn't want to shock her, you know. I figured give her time to calm down. So I went in. I had a nice hot dog and coffee, and then I walked up Jake Street. Yeah. Yeah. It was good. My poor old dad, he died before the war was over. So he never knew whether I made it or not, you know. Yeah, it's that kind of sad thing. They made some movies about like that, you know. Yeah.
Your life is a lot more interesting than a lot of those movies. It must have meant so much to your mom to see you walk through that door.
Yeah. Yeah. My mother sent 3 sons to war. We all made it.
I'm sure she was praying
That's
every
good.
day.
Yeah. Oh, my mother was super religious. So My mother's a really religious woman.
Did you have any difficulties readjusting back to civilian life?
Huh?
Did you have difficulties adjusting to life after the war?
Well, I had all different kind of odd jobs, you know. I worked in a post office, and I used to go to, my friend used to run they have big things, the Jewish people had big, what do they call them? We cater, a caterer. I worked with caterers for a while, you know. A friend of mine got me in that. His mother was in that. So I had that for about a few months. I had different jobs. I took a test for the post office, and I worked in the post office as a clerk. And in the post office, so postal, big old wooden building down there, and I was I was a temp mail carrier. I'd go out sometimes and carry. Sometimes I'd be in there and I'd get the mail, and this is going to Boston, throw it there and there. And I was doing that for about a year. And there's a guy next to me, an old timer. He'd been there about 30 years. He was going to retire in the year I left. And that poor bastard, he was sitting there. He's going to get I'm tall. I said, I'm going to look like that in a few years. I said, oh no, goodbye. So I told the guy next to me, I said, he said, oh yeah. So he said, nice man, but what is? Oh, he's been like that for a long time now. Oh yeah, he's a wonderful man, but he has no control. He can't help it. So I said, well, I'm not going to stick around that long. So I quit. I took a fire exam, a police exam, and Metropolitan Police. And I did pretty good on it. I was up in 85, and one of them 92. So they asked a lot of questions about guns and ammunition. I could write a book about it. Being a tank man, you know, we have every kind of gun. So I did pretty good on that. So I got a job. I got a call for the police, and I got a call. These are all like 3 months apart, not all at once. Metropolitan Police, the Somerville Police, and the Somerville Fire. So I was making a decision one night up on J Street in my brother's room. My mother came in and she brought me down some tea, and I was sitting down. I says, Ma, I got a decision to make, and I can't quite come to it. Metropolitan Police, Somerville Police, or Somerville Fire. So my mother said something that really impressed me. She said, you know, Bill, she says, everybody loves a fire. Everybody doesn't love a policeman. Yeah, that makes sense. And I had in the Marines, I had a lot of fire training, you know. And we used to help the sailors on the ship too, that, and so I've become a fireman. 32 years.
That was perfect, sir. It's more true today than ever about the firefighters.
Yeah, that's true.
I just have two quick things. What advice do you want to give to future generations?
Huh?
What advice do you want to give to future generations?
future generations. When you got a job, do the best you can, and that's it.
And what kind of person do you want people? What kind of person do you want people to always think of you as? As what kind of man?
Oh. Kind of man I want you to think that. I'm a fair guy. That's all. An average guy. Yeah.
I'm sure you want them to remember you as a Marine.
Yeah. No?
You also want them to think of you as a Marine,
No, that's all
right?
No.
Perfect, sir. You just go ahead and give that a swig.
You deserve that.
Good job, Grandpa.
You did a
You did
very
great.
good job.
Yeah.